Independent media should be funded at the highest level possible. It's both a responsibility and a privilege to be able to participate in such a thing.
The Iraqi government demanded more changes to the Status of Forces Security Agreement with the United States on Tuesday. The government of Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki had already demanded changes to the agreement last month, and last week the U.S. sent an amended draft proposal back for approval.
The government of Iraq has debated this agreement thoroughly. We certainly, they forwarded to us their suggested amendments. We got back to them, and it's now the negotiating process has come to an end. So they will now move it through their internal process, as I said.
So you're not willing to have any more negotiations with them?
Oh, we will talk with the Iraqis about, various issues with regard to SOFA, but as I said, the process from our side is concluded.
Iraqi National Security Minister Shirwan al-Waeli, who delivered a message to the Arab League from Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki, said the accord contains basic content that no violations are undertaken from Iraqi soil against any neighboring Arab or friendly country, and it does not undermine Iraqi sovereignty. The Iraqis were unhappy with loopholes in the agreement that would allow the U.S. to use their bases in Iraq to attack its neighbors.
In this draft, according to the reporting that I've seen, shows that the United States has now agreed to the demand by the Maliki government for basically closing those loopholes completely. On one hand, no possibility for extension of U.S. forces beyond 2011, and this appears to cover both combat and support troops. And there's no possibility for using the bases in which the United States forces will be located between now and the end of 2011 to carry out operations beyond Iraq's borders. So the loopholes have been closed. This is, I would argue, the final sort of victory for the Maliki government over the neocon and neo-colonial, if you will, demand of the United States previously that it would be able to use Iraq as a sort of stepping stone for projecting power throughout the region.
But even with the U.S. acquiescence to previous Iraqi demands, government spokesman Ali al-Daba told the London-based newspaper Asharq al-Awsat on Tuesday, the U.S. reply to the Iraqi amendments is not satisfactory, and there are many points that still need clarification and amendment.
I think there is still a very strong opposition within the Iraqi parliament. I think it probably represents a majority, and very possibly represents a two-third majority to vote this down. And therefore, it is not at all clear that this can pass, even if the United States, as it has now done, is willing to go along with these demands. I think the likelihood still is that there will not be a status of forces agreement by the end of this year, and therefore it will go into this extension of the U.S. mandate through the UN Security Council.
The agreement must be approved by the Iraqi parliament before the 31st December 2008 deadline of the UN mandate that allows U.S. troops to operate legally within Iraq. Without an agreement, the U.S. would have to go back to the Security Council to get an extension.
It seems to me that this is going to run into a problem with certainly Russian and Chinese members of the UN Security Council, who I think would be reluctant to be in the position of approving an agreement that would allow the United States greater freedom than the Iraqi people are willing to accept.
But what would a lack of a status of forces agreement or non-extension of the UN mandate mean for U.S. troops in Iraq?
I think it means that the U.S. forces there are really available only at the request and essentially on the whim of the al-Maliki regime. So when, Iraqi forces, when and if they ever get into trouble, then they can call on the U.S. in specific circumstances. But I think it does mean that day in and day out, American forces are likely to be involved in many fewer operations, very carefully selected by the Iraqi government, and that essentially the U.S. is going to have to stay out of the cities. It's going to be on a very, very limited role from here on in.
And what questions does this pose for the new Obama administration when it takes over in January?
Will the administration stick with what Obama was talking about, at least at one point in the campaign, of a roughly 16-month period for complete withdrawal of U.S. combat forces. There is, as we can see from the coverage in the news media these past few days, an obvious effort by the political elite and the national security elite to mousetrap Obama, to put pressure on Obama and get him to sort of compromise with the military and to drop that demand. I think it's more likely at this point that he is going to stick with that demand, and he's going to take advantage of this opportunity to get out lock, stock, and barrel over certainly a period of between 16 and 32 months. I don't think he's going to stay the entire 3-year period.
There are times when reality just asserts itself, in spite of the haze created by television news and entertainment. Sometimes crisis rips a tear in the fabric of myth and propaganda. Now a profound economic crisis has ripped asunder the American dream itself. Millions of people losing jobs and homes. They lack proper health care and any real sense of security. Since 2001, workers' wages have fallen or remained stagnant, even though worker productivity has risen almost 33%. By 2006, the top 1% of households were receiving 23% of all pre-tax income, more than double what it was in the 1970s. It's the greatest concentration of income since 1928. As unemployment rises, we need to know why this crisis is happening and what we can do to defend ourselves. Why are wages so low? Why is the society so laden with debt? Is it in ordinary Americans' interest to have a $1 trillion military budget to project power across the globe? Corporate television news won't ask these questions, let alone try to find answers. Only a truly independent news network can tackle these questions with courage and with ordinary people's interests in mind. We need a news network that's independent of corporations, governments, and political parties. We need the real news. But there won't be a real news network unless we raise substantial funds right away. The current financial crisis has hit our funding hard. Together, we do have the power to turn it around. There are already hundreds of thousands of people watching the real news every month. If everyone pitches in, we can build an internet and cable television network that will change the face of media forever. You can organize house parties, talk to friends at school and at work, send email blasts and spread the word. Distribute this video to everyone you know. Pick up the phone and call a few friends and suggest they visit therealnews.com. Invest just 10 minutes a day to ask friends and colleagues to join the campaign to create a truly independent source of internet and television news. Together, we can build this network. Just 50,000 people at $10 a month gets us to our first level of sustainability. You can help us reach this goal, and when we do, we'll move to television in millions of homes across North America. Help us reach an audience in the millions. Please contribute generously. Spread the word. Let's make the Real News television network a reality.
Your tax-deductible donation makes it possible. Please contribute at therealnews.com.